Good afternoon, everyone. So you probably heard last August the Urban Renewal Board, after a nationwide search for professional assistance to help with our Main Avenue redesign project, hired Otak, a firm in the Northwest, in Seattle and other places around, to focus on that. One of the reasons, a couple of the reasons why we end up hiring Otak, and before I mention that, I want to also acknowledge both. We have two Urban Renewal Board members in this club, Leon Smith, who's our chairman, and Perry Gardner, who is a board member. So you can always, if you ever want to talk about anything about urban renewal, those two are very good resources as well for talking about urban renewal. But a couple of the reasons we ended up hiring Otak is not only their great design that they have showed us that they did in other communities around the Northwest, but also how skilled and experienced they are in with the community aspect, getting community input into what our Main Avenue should look like. And that was really important to the board and to the city, was to make sure we included the community in this process, because it's not the urban renewals downtown, it's all of yours downtown, and that was a key part. So Mandi Roberts is the project manager for this Main Avenue redesign project. She's going to go into all of it for you. Mandi is actually a principal with Otak. She's been with them for 25 years, but she's an Idaho gal. She was born and grew up in Boise. She went to University of Idaho and graduated in architecture. Yeah. And her parents actually grew up here in Twin Falls along with her grandparents. So she's going to talk more about that. But I'm just really excited that we have this wonderful resource to help us with this long overdue redesign of Main Avenue. And I'm going to ask Mandi now to come up and talk to us about it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here, and since I have two sons who are in college, and since they're grown up, I don't have much of an opportunity to sing Zippity Doo-Dah anymore, so it was really fun to sing that with you today. Thank you. As Melinda mentioned, I am an Idaho gal. I grew up in the Boise area, and my parents, though, are from Twin Falls. They went to Twin Falls High School, graduated in 1960 and 1961, and they met in school and became sweethearts and got married, and they're still together today. And they came from a line of other family members that lived in Twin Falls, including my grandfather, Max Carver, who had a medical practice here in town for decades, and he passed away a few years ago. But I just have to say, it's really an honor for me. I really have worked all over the world on projects, and it's really an honor for me to come back to Idaho and work on a project like this in a community that's so near and dear to my heart and with family roots. So I'm really pleased, and our team as a whole is really excited to be involved in this project. Let's see. Okay, good. So today I wanted to give you an overview of all of the different components that we're working on as part of the Main Avenue Area Redesign Project, including utility upgrades, looking at parking and circulation, the streetscape opportunities, public space opportunities, and we have some workshops coming up next month in February, so I'm really hoping that you can help us get the word out about these workshops and also come and give us your input on the design as it's evolving. Just a little bit about our schedule. We've actually been underway since August, and we were here in October for our visioning workshops, which were really kind of a more broad collection of ideas and asking people, what they would like to see happen downtown. What would mean success when this project is complete? And so we took that information, and over the course of the last few months, we've been developing some concepts and options for designs, and we'll be bringing those back in February. And I'll have a reminder slide at the very end of my presentation, but just so everybody knows, it'll be the week of February 17th. We'll be back in town with those ideas, and we'll be stationed at the Rogerson building in the ground floor there. We'll have displays up, so you can come by anytime. And then on Thursday night of that week, we will have a community workshop session, which will be at the ballroom downtown. We're pretty sure, from 6 to 8 p.m. So look for information about that, and I'll give you our website in just a little bit. From there, after that workshop session in February, we'll be going away to the last part of our work, which is task 4 at the bottom there, preliminary design, and we're due to have preliminary design plans complete by the end of May for downtown. Then the project would move forward. It would go into final design, and the hope is that construction could be started in early 2016 on the project. So definitely something's going to happen downtown. It's exciting. As far as the area that we are focused within, from a master planning standpoint and thinking about things like circulation and parking and wayfinding, we're really looking at that full section of downtown within the red dashed area. From the standpoint of looking at what is going to be constructed, we're focused in that green zone, the 5 blocks of Main Avenue, basically from Fairfield to Jerome, and extending a little bit on either end of that to replace some of the utility systems, and also looking at the alleys and connections to and across the Second Avenues is a part of our project. One of the things that we like to do when we come into a community and work on a project like this is really get a sense of the history and the context of the place. And so one of our planners and designers put together this series of slides, which, so really, it's taking his zoom out look at the Pacific Northwest, and then how this area in the Great Basin, and you kind of pick out this smile of the irrigated lands that are part of the canyon and part of the Snake River system. Zoom in a little closer. Then we start to get a little closer, and here's Twin Falls, of course, bigger part of the community, and downtown. And it's just kind of interesting, especially when you look at just this broader kind of dry landscape. And here we've got this magic valley of green, and it's inspiring to think about that as a design concept. And we also looked into the history of how the town was platted and developed many years ago, over 100 years ago. And there was a lot of thought given to this by a French architect who actually did the initial plat and put in things like school sites and park sites and school sites that are still there today, to this day. And one of the great advantages about having a grid network like this is you have excellent connectivity. Whether you're walking or you're on bike or you're driving, you've got this great way to get downtown and to circulate. And I'm telling you, I've worked in a lot of cities and a lot of downtowns that would just love to have a context and a framework like this to work with. And that's one of the reasons why we've shown this quarter-mile circle here, which really represents about a 5-minute walk. A quarter mile, we think of that as about a 5-minute walk. Even when it's snowy, it's fun to walk. And I have seen people in Twin Falls biking and walking in the snow. And then right here in the middle is really basically the middle of our project. So it really is the heart of downtown. It was always meant to be the heart of downtown. And it's a place that's very special. It has a lot of history here, and it deserves to have a refreshed streetscape to honor how special it is. So this diagram represents some of the challenges that we have with that special place in the heart of downtown. Just over the years, with the way traffic circulation has changed and traffic flows, the Second Avenues have really become somewhat of a barrier, especially if you're on foot or on a bike and you're trying to get to Main Avenue. You might be coming down to Shone, and if you're from out of town, you might even just pass by Main Avenue really quickly without even noticing that it's there. Because the Second Avenues are just so much more prominent, bigger streets. The other challenge is that there's a lot of higher speed traffic, 3 lanes of traffic on the Second Avenues, It makes it very difficult, even though we have this great grid pattern, it makes it very difficult to cross the street to get to Main Avenue. Kind of impedes that sense of connectivity downtown. But yet there's so many great things going on. We've got the city park and library. We've got employment uses. We've got the Glambia and St. Luke's area that's redeveloped. And that shows that there's a lot of opportunity. And so we started to look at this just diagrammatically as far as opportunity and thinking about, how can we bring back that sense of connectivity and vibrancy downtown, just like it was at one time. It's still there today, but it could be so much stronger. And we looked at this idea of, if you include the second avenues and Main and the cross streets, that this could become a really great walkable district. And in order to accomplish that, we need to look at how to improve all of these intersections so that they're easier to cross for everybody, pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and that there's just this sense that when you arrive anywhere within this district, you've arrived downtown. And it's a pedestrian-friendly place, and you should be kind of watching for people walking and activity like that. So that's one of our key organizing concepts in our design. Also really important is, as we think about downtown's future and the potential for redevelopment there, and we've heard a lot of interest, for example, in having more housing downtown, more mixed use and multifamily buildings where there could be a lot of different choices for people to live, condominiums, different kinds of housing products. Well, we need better fire flow. We need better utility services, water, sewer, stormwater. And so one of the key elements of our projects is a full upgrade of all the utility systems downtown to support that next generation, or the next really 50 to 100 years of growth downtown. So we're going to be looking primarily in the Main Avenue area, but the Urban Renewal Agency also has funding to look at some other projects in that area, and that's what those lines on this map represent. Circulation and parking has been a really hot item. Always, in every downtown I've worked in, people always say that parking is a shortage or it's a problem. And what's really interesting and intriguing to me is to kind of get down into the details and figure out, what are the problems? Is there enough parking? How come people aren't using parking effectively? That kind of thing. We worked also with a firm from Boise, you guys might know, Kittleson Associates. They're actually from the Northwest. They have an office in Portland as well. And they did an inventory of parking capacity downtown. They looked at roadway capacity. And we also gathered information from a questionnaire process. And really looking at the full network of downtown and how all of the streets are operating today based on land uses today. What we can see, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone, but when you look at those big green circles, that means that all of those intersections are operating really well, that you can get through those intersections without a lot of delay, that they're working very effectively. If they're red, that means that there's a problem. There's typically a delay. So under today's conditions on a typical weekday during the PM peak, we've got really good intersections working really well. The reason why the Shoshone Main Avenue intersection is shown in yellow is just because there isn't any control there, and it can be kind of a difficult thing if you want to take a left in and out of Main. Sometimes you are delayed there. So that's something that we're looking at as part of our project. Also, we looked at traffic volumes, both on Shoshone and Main Avenue, and we saw kind of a similar pattern of a peak in traffic during the midday, which means a lot of people are going down to Slice and the Sandwich Company, and they're having lunch, which is great. What we would hope to see over time as reinvestment, revitalization happens downtown and more businesses move in, is that this really becomes more of a traffic pattern that's like this and even spreads into the evening. And that just means we will have to manage traffic better downtown, but it will also mean that we've got a lot of success happening throughout the day and evenings downtown. Parking. So that's another observation I have from working in a lot of places is, Twin Falls really has an exceptional amount of surface parking available for use for customers. And it includes both private, which are these yellow areas, as well as public surface parking areas, which are the green areas. And then within the green areas, some of those spaces are leased or permitted, and some of them are open for public use. What we've learned from our inventory is that for the most part, on a typical day downtown, not when there's a special event or a concert, of course, but on a typical day of use downtown, most of these parking areas in the green are less than half utilized, 0 to 50% utilized. Of course, the exception is where Rudy's is, and of course, everybody that goes to Rudy's has a hard time finding parking, right? So on that block, on Main Avenue, 2nd Avenue, and in the orange lot, in that behind Main, that's typically full. It's usually about 86% utilized. So we would call that full. So that just means, okay, there's a problem there, but yet we've got parking, in a lot of other areas. And how do we encourage people to walk a block or two, park and walk a block or two with our design solutions? So some of the things that we're going to be looking on that we've discovered through our process is really there's a need to look at the leased parking areas and clarity to the public about where they can park, how long they can park. Maybe we don't need as many leased parking spaces, something to look at. How really just promoting the idea of going downtown, parking and walking a couple of blocks and making it more walkable and interesting. Better lighting, better signing and wayfinding. Those are some of the things that we've talked a lot with the community and business owners and property owners downtown about enhancing. And so as we are starting to develop our design ideas, we're looking at, of course, the connectivity of Shoshone. And through our process, we've come to realize that Hanson Street is just a very important corridor in terms of connecting some of the newer uses that are happening down in this area, Glambia, St. Luke's, and City Park, and of course City Hall, which will be moving to the Banner Building and the library. It's just this really important corridor. Right now, it's not full access. It's closed at this location, but yet this is one of our areas that we have the most parking available. So we've had a lot of conversations with people, and so far there seems to be support for the idea of creating this really great pedestrian bicycle green street on Hanson that's open again to traffic as well, but traffic is calmed and moving slow along Hanson, and it will immediately bring people down to the parking and will become kind of this important connector to Main Avenue again. And I'm going to show you some other ideas in a minute about what we do with the fountain and the public space that we would be, removing by reconnecting that access. You guys are part of that project, I understand, the Downtown Commons project. So we're going to be looking at how to create a better sense of arrival to downtown, creating some gateways, having better signing and wayfinding, making the 2nd Avenues easier to cross, looking at Hanson as a key connection and Green Street, and then also looking at the Shoshone Main intersection, what we can do there to enhance crossing, and other key streets for activity or connectivity downtown. And the streetscape, it needs a bit of an upgrade. It was put in about the mid-70s, as I understand it, early to mid-70s, and so it's had a long, wonderful life, but it's a little bit aged, and we've got some growing trees down there. And so when we start to think about what kind of a streetscape we'd like to see for the next 40 to 50 years, we know that we want it to be a sustainable, livable, complete street that serves everyone's needs, that integrates different green functions, sustainable functions, whether it's stormwater planners or energy conservation in the LED street lights. Those are some of the items that we're looking at as part of the design. I have to admit, these pictures are from Portland. I know it doesn't rain this much here, but I do hear about some flooding issues downtown. And so there's some really great solutions out there about integrating stormwater features into streetscapes to better collect and treat drainage water. Even using permeable paving is another great tool. It can be very attractive. And street lights, we have a great system of street lights downtown, and I know we're retrofitting those with LED, so we would want to continue that. And maybe look at some other types of lighting. Curb bulbs, we do have some of those on Main already, where at the intersection, the curb actually comes out and extends, and it's a great advantage for both motorists and pedestrians because it brings motorists out closer to the view of oncoming traffic. It also reduces the crossing distance across the street. So the best place we can think of that those would really be helpful is along the Second Avenues to really reduce that crossing distance. It would also really help to define the parking strip along the Second Avenues because we have a lot of parking capacity, but it's not really marked, and people don't realize that they can park there. They don't necessarily feel safe parking there because cars are going by so fast. So if we could demarcate the parking area more clearly, that would help with encouraging that use. It's just what they look like in plan view, curb bulbs. And just organizing the streetscape is part of what we're looking at as well. There's just a good best practice to making sure that you always have a through accessible zone, and a furnishings or amenity zone, facilities for bicyclists, and how that all fits together block by block. And one of the things that we've heard a strong interest in is retaining the same amount of parking basically that we have on the street now. So working with that in our design as part of our process. Okay, now something really fun to talk about, and it has to do with integrating the Downtown Commons project into this bigger Main Avenue area project. And I think most of you know there has been a plan for a spray pad and park space and a restroom building in that vicinity of Hanson and Main. And so we've been starting to look at, now that we're doing this bigger project, what's the best way to configure that space, and what are the different options, and how could that program really expand to include more dedicated space for concerts, which is needed, maybe outdoor movies, maybe there's a potential to move a market festival or have more market and festival use downtown, maybe move the farmers market down at some point. More winter events, perhaps there's a portable ice skating rink, holiday lighting, more public art opportunities, interpretive displays. So these are all the things that we've heard that the community is really interested in. And part of our project has been to work with the Urban Renewal Agency on some of the other items that they've been working on. They own the Rogerson site now, and it is available for use in some form, and we've been looking at that as a potential for this signature public space in downtown. And one of the great synergies behind that location is also City Hall is now proposed to be located just across from there in the Banner Building, which is a wonderful neighbor to a public space like that. So it's really opens up a lot of opportunities. And so when we start to look at, these program elements and how much space you might need to seat 250, 300 people for a concert, or to have a farmer's market, ice skating rink, splash park, and we look at, what in scale, how that fits downtown. Even in the previous Downtown Commons plan, it was a little tight to fit that in. We would definitely have to continue to block out streets to have festivals, and that's really great. But is there an opportunity to have a full-time space, which could be, full-time use of spray pad in the summer, maybe ice skating rink in the winter, and other uses? We've looked at just for design inspiration and to kind of bring in some ideas into the mix, we've looked at lots of other examples around the Pacific Northwest of these kinds of spaces and the elements that they include. Everything from this park, Director Park in Portland, which is this great half-block public space that has a water feature and a covered area. And this street adjacent to it is sometimes closed off for special events. And you can see how it fills up on a special event day. So it's a great example. To something that's maybe a little bit more in scale with Twin Falls. Hillsborough is a similar size community to Twin Falls. They've got a little block space here. They also close off streets, but it's got the splash play area, place for concerts, and market space. It's a great idea. A lot of people are doing it. It makes sense, and we just need to find the right solution for Twin Falls. Occidental Park in Twin Falls. We like this, chess and different events that they hold there. This is a project that we designed in McCall, Idaho, the renovation of Legacy Park and some of the downtown streets. But we think this is a good example just because of the streetscape, and we've also got some parking solutions there that are working pretty well. Village Square at Meridian. How many folks have been to the new Village Square at Meridian? It's really popular in the community. My parents live in Meridian now, so I've been there a few times. But they've really done a nice job at kind of designing these interior spaces to have a lot of different uses, whether it's for people sitting and socializing, to fountains with water display, to the ice skating rink. And so this is the kind of thing that we've heard a lot of people in the community talk about. That would be great to have downtown Twin. And the Grove is another example. Commonly mentioned as a great model. Salmon Springs Fountain in Portland. So in terms of our work, just to kind of wrap up here, we will be developing a master plan of recommendations for the longer term that really covers this full space for downtown. And in terms of design, we'll be making design recommendations for this zone of Main Avenue. And then within that, there's going to be a construction project that I mentioned is going to begin in 2016. And we are in the process of really designing that and defining what that construction project will be at this point. We know that from the utility upgrade replacement point of view that we'll be working in the alleyways and that those will need to be resurfaced and new drainage systems and all of that will need to be taken care of in the alleyways. Of course, Main Avenue and the intersections of Shoshone and Hanson will be a part of the project. The idea of doing something on Hanson and integrating the Downtown Commons project into the Rogerson site is something that we're discussing now. Possibly other connections, maybe we don't need to do a lot, but there might be some of those curb bulb extensions that need to be installed on the Second Avenues along Shoshone, and some of the other, we might need to make some sidewalk connections on Idaho Street and some crossing improvements at Shoshone. So we're starting to look at that. We don't have enough budget to do all of these streets and all of the connections, but our process will really create this master plan for the future for the city to fund those types of improvements over time as funds become available, so that then this new district can really come alive, and instead of just being focused entirely on Main, it's really got that sense of a district between the Second Avenues. And then in terms of that project, thank you, for the Downtown Commons, what we're looking at is the Rogerson site and locating splash park, ice skating rink, concert space there that could be there, on a permanent basis, whereas you would then still be able to use the streets, close off the streets for festivals and events and concerts like we do today downtown. And there's also an opportunity to do something with the wall space there, which could be artwork projected, movies projected, that kind of thing. So with that, I just want to kind of put in a plug for getting involved in our process, giving us your input. This is your town, and we've been getting out there and talking to everybody from elementary school kids to students at the college to different clubs and groups like yours. And we've asked people, what they'd like to see downtown, and now it's time to really start to get into the details of what kind of design treatments you'd like to see. And that leads me to remind you about our workshop, which is going to be February 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the ballroom, we're pretty sure. We do have a website, so you can check in with that, and we will be advertising that meeting in the paper as well. But on the website, there's a lot of great information about what we've heard to date. We will be posting our design work on the website when it's complete, so you can take a look at it. But I encourage you to check in with that. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mandi. And I assume that if there's some questions, we can take a couple questions. We're about out of time, but we'll take a couple questions, and then Mandi will be here for a few minutes afterwards if you've got some. Leon?
I just wondered if Mandi would touch on backup parking on Main Street. That's been a subject of some discussion, and at least throw it out so people can understand what it is.
Okay.
Well, first of all, has anybody had any experience with back-end angled parking anywhere yet? McCall, right, good. Yeah, that was one of our designs. They also just recently put some down on 8th Street in Bodo. I noticed, I was there the other day, I took some photos of that. So I don't have a good diagram, but I'll bring one when I come back in February that shows, exactly how it works. Basically, with angled parking, you're either backing up as you're backing out of the space, or if it's back in, you're backing up as you back into the space. If you change that sequence around and you change the backup sequence to the first part of your parking, it's a lot safer. It might feel a little harder to do, and it might feel a little bit awkward, but what's happening is you're backing into the same space, just like you're backing out of the same space. But when you go to leave, you have an open view of oncoming traffic and people walking and bicyclists and things like that. So it really improves your visibility. I don't know how many times I'm in an angled space and I'm backing up, and because there's a big vehicle right next to me, I cannot even see, what cars are coming. So there's just been some research done, and a lot of places have been implementing this, particularly in their downtowns where street traffic is really slow. And so it's an idea that we're throwing out there. We're going to gather some more input on it in February, and we might even do a test block as part of the project and see how that goes. Valet parking, yeah. Would you like to start a business, run that? Yeah.